Hey guys, it's Jeremy here at Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. Whatever today, guys, it will be my top 10 death metal bands of all time. I've done the thrash metal one last week or pretty recently, and for some reason, I don't know why I've never done these videos on my channel. Like I've said in the previous video, I've done like my top 10 bands from a certain country, like all different genres, and I've done my top 20 albums of a subgenre in some cases. I haven't done all of them yet, but a few. And for some reason, I've never just done my top 10 bands of a subgenre. So I'm starting to tackle that kind of sub-series. And I've done, like I said, thrash metal already. So I figured the next one I would do here would be death metal. I'm not the most massive death metal fan. I do enjoy it quite a bit, but it's not my go-to subgenre of metal. I'm more of a thrash head. And I like traditional metal and even prog metal and doom metal a bit more. But I do listen to quite a bit of death metal still, and how I compiled my list, I kind of went with bands I had on the highest rotation in my listening habits. So there will be a lot of massive bands that didn't make my list, and some that might surprise you that are on my list over those bands. But like I said, guys, this isn't a definitive list. This is based on my personal preference and what I listen to the most. So honorable mentions quickly, you're not going to see Morbid Angel on this list. You're not going to see Deicide. You're not going to see Incantation, Dissection. There's quite a few pretty big bands that I left off the list. They might be surprised, but again, it's just based on personal preference. So I'm just going to go through them here quickly. I'm just going to name a couple albums I like from each band. I'm not going to say too much about them, but we'll go through it here. Oh, my cat's back. So the first band I got here at number 10 is, let me move my cat, is Immolation. Out of New York City. Definitely one of the early bands in the scene in New York. Standard albums for me from these guys. Actually, the last album, Acts of God, was really, really good. Dawn of Possession, their debut, is probably my favorite overall. Failures for God is really good. And yeah, just a really good band, aggressive. All their bands are pretty solid. Listen to all their stuff, really good stuff. Number 9, I went with Asphyx, Dutch death metal band, some doom death metal. Got into these guys more recently, that's why they're a little bit more to the bottom of my list. But the last album, Necroceris, or however you pronounce it, was the album of the year for me in 2021. It blew my mind, and fucking love that album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But I went back and listened to a lot of their early stuff. Last One on Earth is really good from 92. Their self-titled is good. Embrace the Death. Just a lot of good stuff in their discography. But maybe it's just because my introduction was to their last album. But for me, that's still my favorite album from the band, is the most recent release. At number 8, I went with Frozen Soul. Great new band out of Texas. They only have 2 full-lengths so far, but I've loved both of them. It takes a lot for me to really get into a new death metal band. There's a couple that really grabbed me, and Frozen Soul is definitely one of them. They have that old school 90s kind of Florida sound. Just really raw, but really aggressive, but had a little groove in there still. But there are 2 albums, Crypt of Ice and Glacial Domination. Just 2 bangers, 2021 and 2023. Definitely looking forward to more material from these guys, hopefully next year. But I still have to pick up their first 2 albums on hard copy, but fucking love these guys. Definitely want to see them live, hopefully soon. And yeah, love their first 2 releases. I listen to them all the time. At number 7, I went with Entombed. Love that early Swedish death metal sound. Standard albums for me would be Left Hand Path is one of my favorite death metal albums of all time. Clandestine is really good. I like kind of their early material, first couple albums. Same difference is okay. Uprising is decent. But those Left Hand Path and Clandestine are just so iconic and amazing. Those ones I listen to the most, especially Left Hand Path. So I had to make my list. Next in line here we got the Mighty Bolt Thrower. Great British death metal band. In terms of the best album for me, Realms of Chaos is really good. War Master's killer. Let me see here. Mercenaries good. Honor, Valor, Pride. I love all their albums really when I'm looking at it here. I think their earlier stuff's a little bit better. War Master, Realms of Chaos. I think those are my standouts for them, the ones I listen to probably the most. But I just love these guys' sound, really crunchy, got some groove in there still. but very aggressive, intense music. Always love their sound. Like my cat's backing in. And yeah, love Bolt Thrower. Good stuff. It's hard to get their stuff on physical copy though. It's always crazy expensive. Definitely want to pick up more of their stuff. Number 5, I got Autopsy, one of the early bands from the scene, definitely for sure. They're from California. Really cool, raw death metal sound. And one thing I love about this band, through the whole career, they never really deviated too much from their sound. They put out 2 albums back to back in 2022 and 2023. Both were killer. Morbidity Triumphant was really good. Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts, another banger from last year. But Severed Survival, their debut, is probably my favorite. And Mental Funeral was really killer as well. Just a really raw, aggressive, gritty kind of death metal. Love how it sounds, just really good stuff. At number 4, I have a newer band as well. They only have 5 studio albums. I was introduced to this band on their latest release in 2023. It was in my top 3 or 4 for the year, I believe. But the more I listen to it, if I had to go back, it might be number 1, to be honest, guys. It's Horrendous with, and their last album was Ontological Mysterium. Still my favorite album from them. That's probably was my entryway point, so that's probably part of it. But love these guys. These guys do with death metal what I think the band Death would have done if Chuck didn't pass away. This is the direction they would have gone in. Very experimental, a lot of groove, a lot of thrashy elements. It's not just kind of really raw and kind of straightforward death metal. There's a lot of groove in there, a lot of melody still. They do with death metal exactly what I wanted the band to do with death metal. Love their sound. I'm obsessed with their latest release. I listen to it almost every week, and it's just a killer band. Number 3, I have the Veterans, Cannibal Corpse. Love Cannibal, one of the bands I latched on to early in the death metal subgenre. Love all their albums. It's not really a bad one in the list. Butchered at Birth, Eaten Back to Life, Kill is amazing, Vile is good, The Bleeding is amazing. Even the newer stuff, like the last one, Chaos Horrific, Violence Unimagined, like it's all good. They don't really have a bad album in my opinion. Like I love all their stuff. When when Cannibal releases an album, you just pick it up right away. You know it's going to be good. Killer band. Probably the biggest band in death metal right now overall, I'd say. Most popular, I'd say. Number 2, I went with Obituary. Love these guys' sound. That groove is so infectious. I love the lead vocalist, John Tardy's vocals. Very distinct vocals, again, from the early Tampa sound. And just love Obituary. Love Slowly Rerod, Cause of Death. Dying of Everything, last release, was really killer as well. But their Cause of Death is a all-time epic classic death metal album. And just love their sound. Another band that never disappoints. I've liked pretty much all their albums I've heard so far. And I definitely need to pick up more of their stuff on hard copy. But just love their sound. It's very groovy. It's not as raw. It's still raw, but it's like has so much groove in it. It's hard to explain. It's not just so pummeling and aggressive in your face like that. It's kind of more smooth but raw at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain. But love their sound. Really good. And at number 1, guys, it had to be Death. It's Death. Like Chuck Schuldiner was a genius, great guitar player, crazy frontman, great songwriter. All their albums are 10 out of 10s. My favorite personally is Symbolic, but Leprosy isn't one of my favorites. Side of Perseverance is amazing. They're definitely going in more into that progressive death metal sound near the end there, but like I said, they would have kind of gone into the Horrendous kind of direction, I think, if they continued. But love their sound, very technical playing, very brutal. Early albums like Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy, just really brutal death metal albums, but so memorable, great songs, great songwriting. Always been my favorite death metal band of all time, and probably a top 10 band of all time, period, for me. So thanks for watching, guys. Name down below your top 10 death metal bands of all time. And I'm also working on doing my top 10 melodic death metal bands next, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching, guys. Keep it metal.